Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, and entertainment, and we give you guys a first perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty funny episode for you guys, but before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, as you guys know, yesterday was a pretty emotional day for some of us here that have been following Undisputed over the last 7 years, because yesterday was the final episode of Shannon Sharpe on Undisputed. And I actually came across the video that they posted on their channel. It got a tremendous amount of views, probably at 500,000, 600,000. I don't know how many views it is now. Where Shannon Sharpe was basically saying goodbye. He had a pretty emotional moment towards the end where he basically thanked Skip and said, you know, I gave you everything that I had. Now, what I had missed prior to that was a segment of him going off in one of his classic rants. Now, what am I talking about? As you guys know, the Denver Nuggets just won the NBA championship. Nikola Jokic won his first finals MVP. The team won their first championship as an organization, right? But the person that they beat, the opponent that they beat, was the Miami Heat. Now, if you know anything about the Miami Heat, they're a very tough team, gritty team. You know, they have Heat culture, which permeates all throughout that organization, and you can see it exhibited through the players and the way that they play on the court. And as the Heat were making this improbable run, basically from round one by beating the Milwaukee Bucks and then all the way to the NBA Finals, Jimmy Butler seemed to be a beacon of, confidence. Whenever he spoke, he's like, even when they were down, he's like, we'll come back, we'll win, and all of that stuff. And he was right for basically 3 rounds, right? First round, second round, and ultimately the Eastern Conference Finals. But ultimately in the NBA Finals, he wasn't able to deliver, although he was still speaking in a very confident way. So heading into Game 5, if I'm not mistaken, he was interviewed. And in this interview, they asked him, hey, what are your thoughts about potentially, making it into the Hall of Fame? What are your thoughts about that? And Jimmy Butler gave a response that apparently turned off a lot of people. And one of those people that was turned off was Shannon Sharpe, who, as you know, is a 3-time Super Bowl champion. And he's in the Football Hall of Fame, right? So yesterday when they brought this topic to his attention, man, and he had an opportunity to go off, I was totally surprised just how upset he was at the comments that Jimmy Butler made. So what we want to do is we want to play exactly what Shannon Sharpe had to say here in response to Jimmy Butler's comments, and then we're going to come back and get into the show. So take a listen to what Shannon Sharpe had to say here.
Do you like or do you have a problem with what Jimmy Butler said?
I hate everything he said. I have a big problem with it. Skip, I get it. You're in the middle of the NBA Finals. You can say, I'm really not thinking about the Hall of Fame right now. The most important thing with me is to find a way to win one game in Denver to try to get it back to Miami. But to be this openly and blatantly disrespectful of what we call heaven. Yeah. It's sports heaven. Skip, give me just a second. I want to Skip, I remember when I got the call that I made it to the Hall of Fame, I picked up the phone and called my grandmother. She was she was dying. She would die a couple of months later. I said, Grand, I made it to the Hall of Fame. She said, baby, what's that? I say, that's where all the really good, great football players go when they retire. She said, oh, baby, that's so good. I sure hope I'm around to see it. The Hall of Fame in any particular sport is football heaven in football. It's basketball heaven in basketball. It's baseball heaven in Cooperstown. That's the heaven. That's the ultimate validation. Jimmy Butler, it's not like hockey. The great Gretzky, he retired, they put him in the Hall of Fame right away. In other sports, you've got to wait 5 years. So you mean to tell me in 5 years you can't find Bali, the Maldives, wherever you want to go and put your toes in the sand? You that disrespectful to me. I don't like the festivities. Skip it. Did you know Jimmy Butler has been to 6 All-Star games? How many times did he turn them down? They didn't take his teammates. No. See, that sounds good. See, this is what turned people off about athletes. Because the arrogance and the pompousness of this joker. Yeah. To have the nerve to say you should fall on your knees and thank God that 50, 60 men and women said, you know what, Jimmy Butler is worthy of basketball heaven. Skip, this is blatantly disrespectful. He talking like he one of the historically all-time greats. Like he's transcended. I can see if they wronged him in some way, in some manner. What has the NBA done to him besides making wealthy more wealthy than his wildest dreams? Everything that he's got. come courtesy of the NBA. I'm not saying that he didn't work hard. I'm not saying that he didn't deserve it, because he deserves everything that he got coming to him.
Yep.
But for him to say this, Skip, he has to miss me with all of this.
Quick aside, after the last 10 games, does he even belong in the Hall of Fame? When I brought this up, I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, I see, right? I said no.
You were shocked I brought up the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the context was, and you shocked me by saying he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I told you, well, it seems like everybody gets in the Basketball Hall of Fame, not the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but the basketball. And now you're like, well, wait a second.
Yeah.
Huh.
He's talking about he a slam dunk. Like he LeBron, like he got like 17, like he got like 8, 19 first team All NBAs, like 3 or 4 MVPs, a couple of Finals MVPs, led the league in score, the DPOY.
So you heard what he had to say. He was absolutely disgusted. Now, I cannot understand this from the vantage point that a Shannon Sharpe would, because number one, I'm not a professional athlete, as you can see, obviously. And number two, you know, I've never been in any Hall of Fame the way he has. So maybe Shannon Sharpe views it differently. And maybe that's the reason it struck such a chord with him, an emotional chord with him, because he genuinely seemed upset. And I think the part that really upset him was two. Number one, he seemed to kind of be scoffing at the Hall of Fame and everything that comes with it in terms of the ceremonies and all of that. And number two, I think Shannon was upset that he's like, bro, who are you to be saying that you're not going and you're turning it down and all of that stuff? Like, who are you to be saying that? And it brings up a larger discussion, which is, you know, is Jimmy Butler a Hall of Famer? We were just discussing this on the channel. Stephen A. Smith came out with a comment where he said that he doesn't believe that Jimmy Butler is in a Hall of Fame, not a Hall of Fame, that he's a superstar. And I 100% concur with him. I don't believe that Jimmy Butler is a superstar. I believe Jimmy Butler is an excellent two-way player, but he's a second-tier player. He's not a top-tier player. The top-tier players are in a totally different echelon, and you can see it, right? Top-tier players are, you know, LeBron. I'm going to throw him in there for legacy. I'm going to throw in Nikola Jokic, obviously. I'm going to throw in Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm going to throw in Luka Doncic. I'm going to throw in Joel Embiid. I'm going to throw in Kevin Durant to a certain extent. I'm going to throw in Kawhi if he's healthy. I'm going to throw in Jason Tatum, right? These guys, I believe those are the top tier guys. The tier 2 guys, I believe, are Jamal Murray, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving, Trae Young, you know, maybe not Chris Middleton. These guys, right? I believe they're in the second tier. And we saw that, right? We saw that, as I said, Jimmy Butler's quite passive. He overpasses. And you don't really see that from the top tier guys. The top tier guys are definitely more aggressive, especially in a situation like that. So I don't think what he said was controversial. But to go back to what Shannon Sharpe said, man, it was just good to kind of see one last final rant from him. And I'm definitely going to miss it, to be honest with you. I'm definitely going to miss it. And hopefully we get to see more of that in the future. But I thought his response was absolutely hilarious, because I did not know he would take it that seriously. So what I want to know from you guys is, what do you think about Shannon Sharpe's opinions on what Jimmy Butler had to say? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and we'll definitely catch you guys on the next show.